Hi there.
very
thanks.
severe problems that we're having with China's soil contamination. How bad really is the situation, Ms. Wu? Particularly compare, let's just say, the water pollution and the air pollution, two problems which of course the China and the world are very much aware of already.
It's pretty serious, and soil contamination definitely is one of the priority issues that the country needs to address. And of course, not as visible as the air pollution we witness every day living in Beijing, and not talked too much at this moment or at the same level as the water pollution yet, because just a couple of days ago, the government issued the 10 action plans to address water pollution. But definitely soil contamination is urgently needed to be addressed because it affects pretty much human health. It gets into the food chain and it affects the human health, but also the health of the ecosystems.
Right. Ms. Jiang, you, together with your colleagues, have been into some of the areas where soil contamination has been severe problems. Help us to understand what exactly has been its impact on the local community and also beyond the local community. But after all, the farming products are going beyond the borders of provinces and autonomous regions.
Yeah, basically, the soil contamination problem has come to public attention since 2013, when the cadmium rise problem has arisen from the news and the media. So in that case, in the Hunan case that I investigated, mainly is because the industrial contamination, industrial pollution that caused the soil pollution, and then it goes into the rice. And then in the end, it harmed our health by harming our kidneys, because cadmium is what cadmium does.
To help our audience understand better about exactly what's going on, we also prepared this. The levels of pollution in China range from slight to severe. According to a report recently by China's Environmental Protection Ministry, cadmium and also nickel and arsenic are the top pollutants. Take a look at this. Conducted between 2005 and 2013, it found that 16.1% of China's soil and 19.4% of its arable land were contaminated. Of course, that's a number back in the year 2013. Pollution is particularly severe in three major industrial zones: the Yangtze River Delta in the east, the Pearl River Delta in the south, and the formerly heavy industrial hub located in northeast. And therefore, let me go to you, Ms. Turner. You've been watching China's issue about environmental protection, of course, for a very long time, I would say. Many argue, many times, that this is a development stage issue. As long as we've gone through this development stage, things are going to get better. But at this moment, vis-a-vis employment opportunities, vis-a-vis economic development, we really can't do that much. What do you think?
No, totally disagree. And I think that when, we've lost that argument when we talk about air pollution, and there's no reason why we need to use that old argument for water and soil pollution. I mean, the crisis, the choke points have hit China now. We've seen, the soil pollution getting into food, and that it's also, there are so many opportunities to make it a win-win-win. You said it's Earth Day, right? That if, for example, if sludge from wastewater treatment plants or factories, that could be turned into energy that could be used to fuel the wastewater treatment plants. Biogas can also be used on animal waste. There are a lot of factory farms, particularly on the east coast of China, and a lot of that waste goes straight into the waterways. And so with the sludge and this other kind of waste, I mean, that's what's contaminating the soil, and it's a truly missed opportunity. We could be turning this into electricity, so no soil pollution, no water pollution, no air pollution. Happy Earth Day.
But on the other hand, we do see this problem because even though China, more and more people agree with the argument that you can really have economic development, but at the same time do take care of the environment, the implementation of the existing laws and also regulations is a big problem. Ms. Wu, you know this better than I do. For example, companies could be ordered by the authorities to clean up what they have just polluted. But eventually, when the authorities left, they reburied some of the contamination and pollutants once again into the soil. It is impossible to have someone always on guard, standing in front of the factories and monitor second by second. What can be done? We have a camera in front of every factory?
Well, this is a really unfortunate situation. The reason why now the country is advocating the ecological civilization, it means a lot. There's a deep meaning in it, basically saying, not only that we need to protect the environment. Every individual, every company, government officials actually need to be really take this to their heart when they make decisions, about what kind of investment they're going to be investing in, what kind of technologies they're going to be investing in, what kind of industrial facilities actually they're going to operate.
But the question is they're not. They're not. Some of them not. So how can we make sure they are going to, and they will, and they have to?
At this moment, I think law enforcement becomes very, very critical. So we started to have laws with teeth, with clear liabilities, whatever, then we really need to enforce it. At this moment, you cannot rely on people's or companies, individuals sort of self-discipline actually to achieve that. Rather, you need to, two things happening. One, you need to educating the whole society about changing your behavior. In the meantime, actually, the enforcement of law part needs to be really, really
The
enhanced.
environmental protection law has certainly been just revised at the very beginning of the year, and it is having more teeth than it used to be, than any time it used to be. And secondly, you have a very much hardworking environmental ministry, in fact, now in China. Much advocacy, but also actions, apparently recently. But, Ms. Jiang, will that be able to solve the problem? There's also a time difference between action that they're taking to the results that we can see.
Yeah, I would say that because in terms of soil pollution, there's a very specific problem in it. Unlike water, unlike air, they will refresh themselves and they're kind of renewable, but soil resources is not renewable. So as you said, when when contaminants has been buried into the soil, it's actually irreversible. So who is going to pay the money to do some soil remediation, like how to treat who is going to pay the cost for treating the soil?
Does Greenpeace have an answer?
We actually, from other countries' experience, they have some fund that every polluting or every industry or facilities has to pay kind of a lump sum when they actually enter that place and operate. So yeah, that fund will be used in cleaning up their mess and after.
Is it a money issue, you think?
It's the money and time, basically.
All right.
Yeah.
Ms. Wu, very briefly, and then I go to Ms. Turner.
Yeah, I think the issues need to be looked in a holistic manner.
Yeah.
We're talking about the pollution, basically saying, somehow some industrial facilities or agricultural activities actually contaminate the soil, then you need to figure out how to treat them. Actually, you need to move up the value chain, basically saying you need to figure out how to prevent the discharge of pollutants from the beginning, from the source. So the laws is not just to say, if you discharge contamination, you need to be fined and penalized, but rather say
all the production line along all the way.
That's true. You cannot say just end of a pipe solution. You need to move up, basically.
But Ms. Turner, that means enormous amount of money, enormous amount of actions, energies, and also personnel to take care of the whole process. Ms. Turner.
Well, but sometimes there can be the issue of simply that the factories, it costs energy often to turn on wastewater treatments, right? To treatment equipment.
Absolutely, that's exactly what's happened.
So there's never been but there's no real, there's no real hammer. Now in the environmental protection law, one of the provisions is that there's opening up space for public interest lawsuits. So it's always been a bit of a difficulty when you've had individuals who suffer from pollution to actually get into the court won't take the cases, but public interest lawsuits, we saw the All China Law Federation bring a case up recently, and there have been other examples earlier, that this is another way that the public is watching, and that these kinds of cases, if we start seeing more of them, and if the fines that are now increased for water pollution can get increased, that would be, at the moment they're greater than they were before, but I don't think they're really high enough to make it really hurt. You have to make the penalties, more expensive than actually polluting.
Right.
And so a lot of this really comes down to governance. It's not about technology. The technology to deal with most of these is there, but subsidies to encourage, for example, biogas, waste to energy, that would again, the win-win, that they won't pollute and they view waste as a true resource, which China has been a very energy constrained country. This is a gold mine.
That is exactly what I really want to ask you as well, Ms. Turner. That is, China is such a huge farming country, and it is producing 40%, 50% of the world's vegetables and fruits. Huge population to be fed. fertilizer is so much being used in this country over the past few decades to increase the productivity. But it is very hard a switch to make, even though you argue about some of the biofuels. That would take quite some time, but the soil contamination is an ongoing process. So, Ms. Turner, some good remedy over there?
Well, I mean, again, some of the solutions are that note that fertilizers are often sold by local government agricultural extension offices, and they make their money by selling more fertilizer. So you have that incentive. You also have that farmers don't always have really good land security. And if you don't know that your land may be grabbed or you may lose the land for other reasons, you're not necessarily going to want to make the investments into shifting to organics, doing other soil protection issues. And again, not laying it on the farmers, but that there can be things done that could help the farmers better protect the land. And so it needs to be looked more comprehensively. It's not that the farmers, they don't have any problem with their thinking.
Right.
The incentives aren't there. And also, and even organic food standards. There's a lot of them that maybe aren't necessarily trusted. That's, it's as Wu Changhua mentioned, there's some holistic solutions that need to be made here.
Rule of law issue, it's governance issue, it's also advocacy issue, it's also awareness issue. All of these fronts need to be developed at the same time. Is China capable of doing that, Ms. Wu?
I do have the confidence, particularly now with this new generation of leaders in China, put its eyes focused on ecological civilization and greenization of the economy. You have a new minister actually who is really on it. I see the hope. I think we'll be able to start solving the whole system in a holistic manner, starting with the sources of pollution to control that. In the meantime, actually, we do deploy technologies to remediate the land and clean the contamination.
At this moment, Ms. Jiang, the 13th five-year plan is being drawn up. And many say this is the best time to get into some of the most important messages when it comes to how to protect soil from being contaminated in the future. What are some of the key points you think that is absolutely need to be there? Briefly, if you can. I know there's a long list when it comes to environmentalists.
The most fundamental thing I see missing now is the coordination among all the ministries and departments in the government. Because as Ms. Turner and Ms. Wu just said, I totally agree that we need a holistic policy and strategy to deal with the prevention and risk mitigation. And basically, for now, for soil contamination, only the Agriculture Ministry is doing something else. They have a very concrete plan on doing that. But we actually need also the Industrial and Commercial Ministry, and also the Development and Reform Ministry, and also the